Welcome back, legends. I hope you're all fantastic. This is the FM9 from Fractal Audio. Fractal have announced that this is their most powerful floor unit ever, and taking a look at what the FM9 can do, this is definitely the case. You can run dual amps and cabs, loads of effects, to ultra high quality reverbs in the same preset, and you've obviously got 9 onboard foot switches with the ability to expand that using an FC6 or FC12. Taking a look on the back, you have 3 sets of analog ins and outs, as well as digital in and out, MIDI implementation, and just about everything else you've come to expect from Fractal Audio. We're going to dive deep into this thing. Let's get straight into it. Let's get started on hardware with the very first factory preset, 59 bass guy. Before we talk about anything, let's just hear this. For anyone doubting that this sounds like the Axe FX3, this sounds exactly like the equivalent preset on the Axe 3 Strat on various pickup positions, although I'm going to start with the neck and middle, my favorite. Let's just hear scene 1. So it's got all this stuff you've come to expect from the Cygnus amp modeling in there. There's the same effect algorithms. There is even the same Axe FX3 sized grid on here. So aside from that, the big thing that a lot of people are excited about, myself included, there's 9 foot switches on here, and because the latest generation Fractal products give us layouts which can totally reconfigure the functions of the foot switch, you've got so much switching power at your feet. For example, I can navigate through and bank up and down and select different presets. Let's try this Plexi 50 watt preset. I'm a massive old Deep Purple, UFO, Rainbow, Judas Priest fan, you know, kind of classic proto metal, and this is the amp in here that's going to get you that with a Strat. What I can do, once I've selected the preset that I want, is just hit scenes, and now I can select between the first 4 scenes over here. If I hit this more button, look at that, like magic, I've got the next 4 scenes. But I don't know, let's roll with high 2 on here and have a listen to how it sounds with the Strat. It sounds nasty in all the best ways. So good. I can navigate to a whole new layout by hitting this button right here, Effects. If I wanted to add, say, a phaser and a drive to this preset, I've done it. Alrighty, I'm going to swap guitars really quickly because I want to go back to presets, I want to bank up, and I want to grab this USA Mark IV preset, which is one of my favorite presets in the box. I want to hear this with humbuckers now. Now, if we look at the layout, there's a single amp and cab block in this preset, but because each of these has 4 different channels, I can have essentially 4 different amps in one preset. In fact, because there's 2 amp blocks available, I could have 2 sets of 4 channels. So I could have a different amp on every scene if I wanted to do that. But let's just quickly navigate through here. I'm gonna hit the scenes button so I get my scenes down here. And what I'm gonna do is just navigate to the right, because this particular screen here is called the per preset perform page, where I can lift important parameters from any block in the preset, map them here, and then use these encoders to tweak them. For example, on this clean scene, I might want to tweak the delay and the reverb. Let's just see how we go. So it's a little bit dark sounding on the neck pickup, but that kind of feels just right on the bridge pickup. Let's go to scene 2, and because I've changed channels in the amp block, you'll see that the perform page is mirroring those features. So the graphic EQ is off at the moment on the rhythm channel. But I could easily say switch on the fat switch or the boost function, play around with the reverb and delay mix. What I want to do is navigate to scene 8. This is probably my favorite scene in here, this lead mid gain. I've got the option to turn a boost on. The delay and the reverb are kind of pumped up a little bit. There's just so much grease on this one, and it's using a different channel in the cab block. And of course, if I wanted to add a particular effect that's in the preset that's not yet activated, I could say go in here and, add a flanger. Why not? So that's the general thinking with the way everything kind of functions. It's pretty intuitive. It's pretty easy to get used to if you've used any other Fractal product or generally any other multi-effects processor. If you want even more layouts, you can use this little dual foot switch command there, where you kind of press this foot switch and then that one, which is really easy to do if you're using, say, your heel and your toe. And there's the master layout. We can access any of the 8 layouts on there. I'm using these OFMG9 layouts on there. So if we go back here and page across and hit setup, you can see that I've got the option all the way over here to just load the factory default layouts, which you might be more familiar with if you're used to using, say, an AXFX3 with an FC6 or an FC12, or you can load up the layouts that I'm using at the moment. It's really, really awesome. Let's find another factory preset. I can go to the long list of presets over here. One of my favorites on the AXFX3 is the Limelight preset, and there is, of course, an FM9 version over here. Just having all the scenes laid out here, again, I said it's like the Goldilocks form factor. It makes so much sense. So I'm gonna butcher Limelight for you all now. That is such a cool sounding preset. Let's try something a little more effecty and strange from this list. If I don't want to do this, I can just kind of bank up and down using the bank buttons right here. So let's get to some of this fun stuff. Mystic Arps is a real favorite of mine. And what's cool about the perform pages here is these are kind of designed so that you can have all the important stuff. So what pitch are we in? Let's go for, I don't know, I like to kind of play stuff in E or A. Let's go E. E for standard tuned guitar makes a whole bunch of sense. We can set the different harmonies on there, but this one is amazing fun. And of course, you've got the entire modifier system in there. Maybe my favorite modifier is the pitch follower. So this is a preset that I wrote that is included in the factory presets. And essentially, if you play down low, you're gonna get less gain and less effects mix. As you play up higher, the amount of gain on the amp and the overall wetness is gonna increase. It's kind of like having magic fingers. So let's hear this one. Then we're gonna move over to FM9 Edit and just kind of play around with a few presets there, talk about some other really cool features. But I'll play you there with the pitch follower. So I'm in FM9 Edit. The first preset that I want to show off is an amp-based preset for seamless switching between a clean sound and a dirty sound. I'm using the band commander for my clean sound. I'm using the USA lead mid-gain for my dirty sound. I have them connected to a multiplexer over here, and scene 1 is clean. Scene 2 is going to be my dirty sound. I've also got a cab with one of my favorite user cabs loaded up, a multi-band compressor, a delay for my lead scene, the cirrocumulus reverb on high quality for a big pad on one of the scenes, and then we're just running the London plate on high quality for a kind of general ambience. What I'm going to do is just play a little bit. I'm going to use the physical FM9 down here to select between the different scenes, and you can hear the change from the clean amp to the dirty amp with absolutely no gap. And the glorious thing about that was we still had the reverb tails from that big ambient cloud style reverb on there. The next preset I've called dual ambience. What I'm doing is I'm running this digital stereo delay into a clean pair of amps, the band commander. This one is taking the left input and is panned hard left. Similarly, this one is set exactly the same, but it's taking the right input from this stereo delay and panning it right. I've got a stereo cab. I've got another stereo delay, and I have two of these ultra high quality Nimbo Stratus reverbs. The CPU is running at about 50% at the moment, and I'm just going to play a little bit and then we'll check out what happens to the CPU when I remove one of the delays and one of the reverbs. So So the CPU has gone down, but not by much, certainly not by a massive amount, because the reverbs and the delays have their own cores in here. So if I just take this particular reverb and copy it back, you can see we're somewhere between 45 and 50% on the CPU. Again, this is the ultra high quality reverb on here running one of the really CPU intensive algorithms. Let's just do this and we'll hit edit paste block. Now I've got 2 copies of that. The CPU barely budges up. So that one's really, really awesome. What I want to do though is show off my live presets. So let's just navigate down here and I'll grab my PRS SC245 to show it off. So this is fairly similar to the sort of preset I use on my AXFX3 and on my FM3 for ragdoll shows. Basically what I need is a wah, which I've got connected to an expression pedal. I've got the USA lead mid gain with some fun stuff happening with the boost and the fat switch in the amp block. They are connected to control switches which can be turned on per scene. I've got a gate, which is the downward expander. I would normally set this. So here's a little virtual rig rundown of my main live preset. This is actually factory preset 380 on the FM9. I'm using the USA lead mid gain. I'm using a gate, which is sidechained to my input, so it's really nice and tight. I've got a wah attached to one of the pedal expression jacks. I'm using an EV1, which I've got at my feet. The cab in this particular case, I'm using factory cabs. I've got the 4x12 York Audio Recto cabs in there. I would probably swap this out for one of my user cabs, but using the factory cabs, it sounds pretty fantastic. I then have a parametric EQ, just kind of making some surgical cuts in there. You'll notice the high cut here is 6500 Hertz. I would play around with that and maybe bring it up or down a little bit depending on the room we're playing in. I've got a multi-band compressor acting as a dynamic EQ. I've got a delay up here for some rhythmic delay. I've got a quad parallel delay here for my lead delay, some chorusing, some kind of rotary sounds, and then I have the Recording Studio C reverb on ultra high quality as basically a room ambience because we play live with in-ears. I've got the FM9 here and I can just kind of scroll through the scenes and you'll see everything changing up there. So I'll just kind of give you an idea of how I would use this. Scene 1 is going to be my main kind of chunky rhythm scene. Then there's going to be a lead scene, a rhythmic delay scene, and I think the rest of the scenes will kind of speak for themselves. So they're all the dirty scenes. The last one I've called Sensitive Sundays. If you're a regular viewer of the channel, you know what this one's all about. That one's using a Different reverb, the Opera House, which is one of the newer reverb types. It's got the DM2 delay in there. And if I want to, I can turn on this kind of quad chorus that I've created with the multi-tap delay. You can see these are all really short delay times. And then I can assign the rate and depth per delay line in there. This one's really, really fun to play around with. There's also a bunch of other presets for the FM9 that I've made that I will share. The Atomica High sounds absolutely incredible in the latest Cygnus firmware. I've made this patch for the FM3 and the Axe-FX3. I just imported it straight in here. And of course, you can kind of recreate some of my favorite stuff from the 80s, like a big rack style preset. I've got a compressor, a clean amp. I've got a dimension style chorus in here, some H3000 style detune, and a big concert hall reverb. You know what? Let's be excessive. Let's turn the quality on that up to ultra high. This one is glorious. You've of course got the advantage that the extended grid has on here. This is the same size as the grid on the Axe-FX3. Really simple example would be routing effects like a quad detune into a dual ducking delay in parallel, so that when you are playing, you have this really greasy detune. When you stop playing, you have this glorious ambient dual delay. And there's absolutely stacked presets like this Blade Runner preset on here, which you may recognize as kind of like a slimmed down version of the Axe-FX3 equivalent. So like I said, we barely scratched the surface with the FM9. When you've got over 400 presets with the ability to have 8 scenes per preset, the Fractal modifier system, all the effects, all the amps in there. This is kind of amazing that they were able to cram it into a box that can sit on the floor, that you can gig with and get absolutely world-class tones like all their other units. It really is going to be that special form factor for so many of us out there. I have been using the Axe-FX3 as the heart of my home studio for a few years now, and that particular unit, you know, it does the bread and butter stuff so well, but you can use it as a sound design device. I use it to manage ins and outs in my studio. It is just so ridiculously powerful. It's kind of like 8 times more powerful than the next comparable product out there. It's a titan. The FM3 is so streamlined. It does everything that I need for a gig, nothing more, nothing less. It's that perfect form factor. I did some fly shows last week where I carried that on the airplane with me. I had my dual guitar case with everything else I needed for the gig, and it went so well. The FM9 is going to sit right in that kind of little missing space in Fractal's lineup, where if you just want a what you see is what you get style unit, so you want to be able to have all your scenes accessible at one time, you want to be able to scroll through presets, you want that extra power of dual lamps, or you want to run ultra high quality reverbs, true stereo with a bunch of delays and a bunch of effects. If you want to use this in 4 cable method with your amp as kind of like the brain of your rig, you can do all of those things. The SPDIF in and out is really handy on there. The FAS link, you could connect this to an FC12 and have 21 foot switches at your disposal if you wanted to do that. The extra ins and outs are really, really lovely. I think so many of you are gonna absolutely love this unit. Let me know what you all think in the comments. Is this gonna be the unit for you, or are you gonna go for, the Overlord, the Axe FX3 that do absolutely everything under the sun, or are you gonna go for the kind of more streamlined prize fighter like the FM3? Or is the FM9 perfect? Let me know in the comments. Thanks so much for watching the video. You're obviously gonna see a whole bunch more content with this, including some deep dives and the 5-minute tone series for the FM9. So please let me know, what would you like me to cover in deep dives with this unit? What should I do for 5-minute tones videos? I would love to hear from all of you. If you wanna support the channel, there's links to the music I make and my Patreon in the video description. Have a great day. Thanks for watching. Hey Tibby, do you approve? I think it's got the cat seal of approval, so it's all good. I'm also not going to get my chair back, am I?